spent a year on the restaurant, looking for products, finding purveyors, talking to people, finding architects, designers, plate makers, etc., etc. Then we opened, and so it's almost 8 years actually.
With what idea did you open?
We had an idea initially that we were going to use local products, very basic and simple. See if we could open a restaurant using local ingredients. There wasn't any strong cultural identity in our idea of cooking. We thought that we could take existing recipes from other cultures and we could just swap ingredients, thinking that that would actually make it our own cuisine somehow. And that's how we started. And initially, our own people, the Northerners, they didn't fully agree with this type of restaurant. And
they were cooking in different cuisines. Or?
It was primarily French cuisine, for obvious reasons. French cuisine is amazing, but mostly people didn't think that there was any ingredients, or the ones that there were there was not good enough to be considered as a fine dining cuisine. So people didn't believe in the idea initially. And it's only been in the past 3-4 years that they started to do that. I don't know if you have the same thing in Holland as we have in Denmark, but I call it small country syndrome. Which is that once, if you start something new that comes from within, in the country, you always need the foreigners to say that's good before the locals believe it. And it's the same here.
We're still a bit behind with, now it's starting.
We had that, absolutely. Only recently things are changing, you know. Other restaurants are also looking into this idea of what is the sum of the people we are, the sum of the culture we have, the sum of the history, the sum of the ingredients, the sum of the nature. What is all that onto a plate, you know? Which is a very, very, very complex question. And I think there's no truth to it, but you know, it's something that takes a long time to somehow discover.
Because the new Nordic cuisine, is that a name that you came up with, or is that how people labeled it? Or?
I think it became labeled like that. First of all, we've been
You're stuck with that cookie now.
We've been open 8 years. How long is something new? You know? And I consider it, what's happening, to be more of a, you could call it an authentic regional cuisine rather than a new Nordic cuisine, you know? That's the best way I would explain it. But I guess that it's easier to understand this term as a new Nordic.
Because before you worked, in your book I read that it took you a long time to let go of everything you learned in the kitchens.
Yeah.
Like, Bully you worked, and the French laundry, and quite a few.
Well, it is such a strange thing and such a weird thing to realize that you know, one of the major discoveries in our cuisine was when I realized that you know, what rice is for the Japanese and what corn is for the Mexicans.
Yeah.
For us, it's the rye bread. You know, the kernel of rye.
Yeah.
And but of course, when I think of it, and when you tell Danish people this, they see the rice as something, you know, that's sushi. That is a basic cuisine around it. It's exotic, and the rye is something. It's almost too common that it can even be considered. But it is a base diet. People have the rice, other people have a grain of corn or maize, and we have the grain of the rye. And once you start seeing it like that, we started to discover many new things about our own culinary identity. So it was very difficult to kind of throw away all these things that you learned, because as I said, we thought when opening that the challenge was to find the ingredients. Once we found the ingredients, we would just swap them into all these recipes and these ways of cooking that I already knew.
Because when did you realize like that there was friction, that it didn't work? You thought, this is not what I want.
Well,
was there a point like that? I don't know.
There was plenty of it. The year one was definitely the hardest year of Noma. Not in work-wise, but just in this, you walk around every day and you work 80, 90 hours a week, you're constantly unhappy because it doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. When you have a recipe with Iberico ham and you swap it with some reindeer dried meat, because that's what you think, maybe this can reassemble the Iberico ham. It will never be that. Instead of just seeing it for what it is and somehow working with that ingredient instead of always seeing it replacing some Southern European great, fantastic ingredient.
And did you just sense that, or did your guests sense that as well?
No, we had very big success. Yeah. We got a Michelin star. People were happy. It was a personal feeling that it just didn't work. The food, there was nothing unique about it. At that point, when I started to have this feeling, we had also come to the realization that our biggest job at Noma, and still today is the core of everything that we do, is this notion of time and place. The idea that when you eat at a restaurant, you can actually sit and you can experience it only there, and you know exactly what time of the year you're in, which is a very, very special feeling, because often when you eat at restaurants, at least that's how I feel, if you close your eyes, you could be in Buenos Aires or in Paris or in any city of the world. There's this contemporary feel to most places. There's this, the type of music that you put on, the type of cutlery you use.
In a lot of countries, I think they also have one kind of climate, maybe.
What do you mean?
I mean, one kind of place. But let's go back to the next. Let's go where I want to go. No, because I know you're very. Your book it's very much about the seasons, and you tell about that one winter takes so long, and you always work with the things that are in season. I can imagine that in some countries they don't have these distinct season where you say like, oh no, you should always make an effort to do just what's going on at that moment.
For me, what we're doing here is not the absolute truth on how cooking should be. This is what makes sense to me and to our restaurant, and we have a big abundance of food stuff. Once we started to look into our own natural food resources, our culinary vocabulary grew, not with 10%, with 5,000, 10,000%, because we were having the same food that was imported everywhere. And suddenly, we could find 59 types of berries, but we used to only have the raspberries and the strawberries, etc., etc. But it doesn't mean that this is the ultimate way to do it. But I truly believe that by exploring seasonality to the extreme and getting somehow reconnected as a cook with your natural environment, agriculture, farming, nature, the wilderness, I think we'll have more ingredients to cook with, and I think it will make more sense, at least it does to me, why I am a chef,
So how do you do that? Do you just, because I've seen on YouTube films and also in your book, and you see pictures of you like this little basket, a little plastic bag, and it's real romantic, you're picking some berries, and I'm like, yeah, right, this is not for the whole restaurant. So how do you...
This is actually how it's done.
Yeah, but not just by you, right? I hope
no, obviously not. We are a big team, we also have foragers, so we have 2 farms.
Do you still discover things like, oh, this berry I've never seen, or...?
A few. I mean, we've discovered a lot. We also have a sous chef only dedicated to finding new ingredients. So over the past 8 years, of course, we have discovered a lot. But what's interesting, we're in a phase now where we're discovering new things that I never thought of would be possible, which is the different stages of an ingredient's life. And one of them, actually, we have a video of, which I want to tell you about. We shouldn't start it now, but I will talk you through the video. I don't know if there's a screen back here, there is, but at least there's one here and one there. There's there too. As you see, we call it the vintage carrot. The dish in itself is not important. What's important is the carrot. And it's called a vintage carrot because it's an old carrot.
How old is an old carrot?
This carrot has been in the ground for 2 years. Oh. And we discovered this carrot 2 years ago during one of the hardest winters I've ever tried in my life. Only to be surpassed by last year's winter, which was also one of the coldest ever. We were not prepared for it. We are kind of prepared always. We do storage food, we do pickle food, we do put food in salt, and in a little while you'll taste this. This is roses that I brought. But that year we weren't, because the winter before, it was a mild winter. We had plus 10 degrees in January as an average temperature. And suddenly it was minus 10 as an average temperature. And we were running out of food things, you know. We have a large menu, there's people coming constantly. You need food things for the menu. And there wasn't enough. You know, we had not the plants and everything. So we asked one of the farmers, give us everything you have. Don't discard anything. Everything, we just have to see what there is.
Was there panic at that stage, or?
There was panic, and also kind of, it's very, very unsatisfying when you work with innovation and then suddenly there's nothing, you know, there's a drought. There's no thoughts. You're like 5 guys around the table just looking at each other. Nobody's saying anything. It's cold, the water's frozen. And then this farmer, he came to us and he said, listen, I don't have anything, but I have these old carrots. They've been into the ground for 2 years. I harvested them just before winter. And then they've been into my storage room until January. And you know, we dusted off the soil of these carrots, and they were kind of soft. We tried to peel them and taste them, and they were really, really, really crappy. Really, no, I mean, everything talks against it. Also, everything that you ever learn as a cook, that food has to be the freshest of fresh. And then, of course, meat you can store it yourself, but you buy it when it's really fresh. So everything was against it. But we thought, okay, there's no way around it, you know, we have to see if there's anything to it. What if we juice it? How does the juice taste like? Is it different from a fresh juice? So we tried all these things, all weird things with it. But the best thing we did was that we thought to ourselves, I asked myself, I said, what is a carrot usually? Or a vegetable, for that sake. The vegetable usually is the choir in the background that nobody hears, you know. You always hear the lead singer or the lead guitarist, which is the piece of meat or the piece of fish. And how do you treat this piece of meat, piece of fish? If you have a côte de bœuf, you know côte de bœuf, right? A wonderful piece of meat, fat marbled, and it's been raised properly. It's very, very expensive, so you tend to treat it and care for it more than these cheaper items. And you put it on a pan as a cook. You add butter to the pan, you add spices and herbs, and you twist it, and you turn it, and you're really spoiling it, and you're kind of so faithful to this piece of meat, and you're touching it to make sure it's exactly right. And we thought, well, let's do that with the carrot. And that's what we did. And I think we should start the video now, so I'll talk you through the video. So this video was actually taken a bit in spring. This is a field of chamomile. Next to it is actually a field of carrots, which is a technique we use a lot. You see how shitty they look, those carrots? They are not pretty, huh? Who would ever buy something looking like that? Nevertheless, we put it on a pan. We had goat's butter, then we put chamomile in this case. We roast it. It takes hours. 1.5 to 2 hours. Keep twisting and turning it. And what it does is that, as you will see in a second, is that it creates an almost leathery skin. And on the inside, there's a transformation. It's like a piece of meat suddenly, you know, all kind of as if it was magic, you know, it's kind of structured as meat, all dense and puree like on the inside, with an intensity of flavor I've never ever seen before. And that was the discovery of the vintage carrot. So you asked me, are we still discovering? Yeah, we're still discovering. So the vintage carrot got discovered, and now what we've also done is we've discovered vintage potatoes.
You should just bring all your old stuff.
Well, vintage potatoes is, most of you have seen an old potato is such a sprout, right? You know, and most of you, if you've seen this in a farm, you will see that the potatoes are harvested, and then it gets put into big crates, and they store for the winter. And then later on, they will start to sprout, and they're no good anymore. Well, the farmer, he keeps them like that. Then they will start forming small potatoes around it, which lives off the nourishment of the mother potato, resulting in small potatoes this size. It's second generation potato, you know, which is just amazing. It's just an amazing, amazing potato. You can eat them raw, they taste like hazelnuts. And we call them the caviar of potatoes, because you have a potato like that, which then, you know, the farmer gives birth as a seed, gives birth to a potato, then this potato gives birth to 10 potatoes, like just this tiny. And it's a 2-year process, almost, to get to it. So fun.
I'm not supposed to hear, I'm not supposed to